All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am no one. And in today's video, I wanted to start with a very small story for you guys. You see, a few weeks ago, I was playing Ashes of Creation, which I do basically Thursday through Monday every single week, just like everybody else. And when I was playing, I was in Discord chat with a few guild members, and one of the guild members made a comment. He was running around collecting resources, and he goes, "Oh, look, here's a copper node. We don't need this anymore." And then he rode on by. Now, I know that isn't the greatest story in the world, but it is a perfect segue into what I'm talking about. Because you see, this last week, Ashes of Creation introduced tempering, one of the main mechanics to upgrading your weapon, into the Alpha 2 on Thursday. And so with that, it calls for getting copper. You see, if we look at the deconstruction kit here, it says that we need copper in order to have the deconstruction kit. And so depending on what level deconstruction kit you have, depends on what level of copper you have. And I've talked about this before. I did an econ video a couple months ago, but resource sinks are incredibly important in a sandbox style game like Ashes of Creation. You know, other theme park games we played, I know a lot of us have played MMORPGs, you know, we're addicts for these sorts of things. Other MMORPGs, a lot of theme park style ones, what they will do is instead of creating a dynamic economy to where you have resource sinks into other things, what they do is they just make new resources with new materials and new gear, and then you just ignore the old stuff. And I'm sure if you guys go to just about any theme park style game, and I'm pretty confident in saying this, there's probably a lot of outdated resources and materials that people no longer pick up. In a sandbox style game, which is Ashes of Creation, you can't have that. You have to have these resource sinks to where the lower level resources hold some value somewhere else in some other part of the economy. It doesn't mean that they're insanely valuable. It doesn't mean they're the most important thing in the world, but it's important that some people, when they're collecting lumber, they're collecting ore or something like that, they go out in the world and they see a lower level material and they go, hey, that's worth collecting for this reason. And so in this video, we are going to talk about the 3 bigger resource sinks that I'm seeing. Now, this isn't all encompassing. This is very well, could be player dependent based on what you want to get involved in, but I wanted to show you guys some resource sinks and why they're important in general. Now, I've discussed this on a previous video. The example I'm going to provide here is caravan parts. So if we look at rare braidwood caravan wheels, currently, if you were to craft rare braidwood caravan wheels, you get 95 to 117 general speed rating. So this is what the speed is for your caravan with your wheels. It calls for 10 dried braidwood boards, 10 dried braidwood planks. This road speed rating, water speed rating, and turn speed rating, these don't really work right now, especially the road speed rating. They were making adjustments. It doesn't exist, so just look at the general speed rating right now. Now this calls for braidwood, which is the highest level material we can currently acquire in Ashes of Creation. Obviously there's other level 20s. This is just an example, guys. But if we go over here and we looked at tin reinforced caravan wheels, we see that this calls for lower level stuff. We have weeping willow boards, weeping willow planks, and tin ingots. And look at the general speed rating. For rare of combining these, we get 100 to 124 general speed rating versus 95 to 117, which means that if we wanted fast wheels, we could do rare braidwood caravan wheels, or we could collect the lower level materials that aren't as hard to come by, and they're probably quite a bit cheaper, and we could have even faster wheels by going this route. Now, some of you guys are in legendary braidwood wheels and all that, and I'm not trying to say that, you know, those aren't really good, because obviously they are, you know, up to 223 general speed rating. But once again, tin reinforced caravan wheels go up to 243 general speed rating. So it's a way to get just as fast or faster wheels with cheaper materials. So now, you know, if some big bad baddies destroyed your caravan wheels or your caravan as a whole, you could go out and you could get a very good caravan for a lot cheaper. Obviously, it's not braidwood. Obviously, it's not as sexy, but the point of caravans is to make money. It's not to be sexy. Guys, we have to keep this in mind. So this is just a resource sink of lower level materials that is competitive with the higher level materials. The biggest one that I've talked about quite a bit is actually consumables. And so I wanted to provide another example here. If we look at the food consumables, we have an example of higher level 20 food here. It is spaghetti. And this is another example that I've used, but at common level food, you get 357 max health and 1070 physical power rating. So this would be pretty valuable for your fighters, your rogues, your rangers, your tanks. Now, let's look at the recipe. Tomato sauce. In order to make tomato sauce, we need to have tomatoes. In order to make tomatoes, we need a tomato seed, we need water, and we need spindlevine mulch, which spindlevine mulch calls for spindlevine and droppings. So lower level spindlevine, lower level droppings has value to make tomatoes. If we look at mirepoix, for instance, calls for onion. So we have onion seed, water, and braidwood mulch. Braidwood mulch is braidwood wood chips, so lower level braidwood, and droppings. If we go back and we look at celery, I think I just did celery. It's celery seed, water, and droppings. So there's no wood chips needed. Carrots is a carrot seed, water, and weeping willow mulch, which is weeping willow, wood chips, and droppings. So you see, just with making this one food, we need braidwood, we need spindlevine, all this for different mulch and droppings. And then on top of that, that's just for the tomato sauce. If we dive into the noodles, we see it calls for chicken eggs, and chicken eggs calls for an adult chicken. In order to get an adult chicken, we need chicken feed, baby chicken, and water. So all these different foods, and this is just one food. Keep in mind, every time you die, you have to ingest another consumable in order to get the buff back. And so as long as points of interest in PvP and deaths are happening in the world, you will be consuming food. I know this is crazy. And as long as it's competitive, as long as it's difficult and you actually need this type of food, crafters will have value in going out to collect lower level wood chips, lower level weeping willows, lower level spindlevine. And this is another resource sink. Obviously, this is braidwood, and braidwood is level 20, like I said before. But as you advance in the world, as you get further and further along in the game, you know, maybe you make a rare bow, right? You're not going to collect uncommon braidwood to make the next bow, because now you've advanced to heroic. And so you're going to collect heroic and above to make a higher level bow. And then you're going to craft, if you get a heroic, you're going to make an epic, and then you're going to make a legendary. And basically all that stuff below eventually disappears, and it doesn't become as valuable because people aren't making weapons out of it. Having your food, having your consumables like this, basically adopt a big portion of that resource sink for wood is very, very valuable. And so you're looking at this and you're seeing a lot of sinks into like wood chips and whatnot, which assigns value to weeping willows, assigns value to braidwood, and those sorts of things. Now, as I showed before, this deconstruction kit calls for copper, which is important, you know, and if you look at turpentine that you also need, you need western larch. Western larch is a lower level wood that really isn't used in a bunch of different resources. And now if you want to upgrade your weapon to a higher value on the scale, you're going to need to, you know, get some western larch. And so you either can buy it or you can go farm it. So if you were looking to upgrade your weapon and you see a western larch tree, this may catch your attention. You may want to collect those things. And then granite. And so now we have a granite grinding stone, and that calls for granite in order to do this as well. You could say that you won't take it for granite. And so these are three of the bigger resource sinks that currently exist in the game. Now, that, like I said, this is not all inclusive. I'm not trying to say it is. I'm just trying to show you how a lot of these systems intertwine to make the economy more valuable, which leads me to my last point. On Thursday, when they introduced tempering, it kind of came as a surprise. There was no, hey, you know, we're going to test this on the PTR. It was on Thursday right away. Hey, this is going to exist, right? Like, this is going to be a thing, and here you go. And there was a lot of complaints on Discord that I saw, people complaining about why this exists. Because when you look at tempering, tempering helps you upgrade your weapon, much like enchanting, and people were immediately looking at it and it was like, okay, you're just going to give us another way to upgrade our weapon. Like, what's the point of this? And so instead of going in and testing right away and trying to figure out how this is different, they just started immediately complaining on Discord about, you know, what the point of tempering was. And so I understand that there's quite a few of you guys out there that have played games like Arcade, and you've already participated in a tempering style process, and you may have your opinions on this, and you may already have a strongly reinforced opinion on what you think of tempering and Ashes of Creation. But I think a lot of us that have not played these things and have not tested these things are losing sight of why we joined Alpha 2 to begin with. Like, a lot of us joined Alpha 2 to test and provide feedback to Intrepid about these specific systems. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that tempering is a perfect system or anything like that, because I haven't tested it enough. I've done it once, and honestly, it was kind of expensive. I'm going to do a video later this week kind of talking about my first impressions on it. But overall, the point of the entire system is to provide a resource sink for lower level materials. You see that with copper, you see it with granite, you see it with western larch. And so before, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we're immediately complaining on Discord. If you have a good point of view, from my experience, they listen quite well. And so if you go in and you test these things like they want you to do, and you go in and you show with examples why this is a bad resource sink and why this isn't good for the economy or why it's too expensive and why nobody's going to use it, that's valuable information that they can use to tweak things later. Just like, you know, when people have complained about tanks and like different skills on tanks. They're doing a tank rework right now. We had a big roundtable over a month ago talking about Ranger, and some changes to Ranger were made. People complained about overall durability on gear in phase 1, and they lowered the cost of durability because they believed that it was too high from good feedback. And so you could have a good opinion. You very well could have a very articulated, well-informed opinion, but until you test it, they're probably just not going to take your feedback as well as they will take somebody that actually tested the system itself. And so that's my perspective on it. I think a lot of you guys are very informed. You're very knowledgeable MMORPG players. You have different opinions like I do. And I think a point would get across quite a bit better than just immediately complaining about what the point of a system is before you go out there and test it. Now, obviously, this doesn't apply to everybody. It's just some people that I saw on Thursday. And so, yeah, we're here to test. We're here to provide feedback. Your feedback is as important as mine. And let's test them and, you know, try to make the best systems possible for a game we want to play in the future. So I'm going to end this video here. If you guys have any questions or comments, please provide in the section below and I'll do my best to answer it. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.